Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about transit Saturn conjunct one's natal Saturn. Now, when you have transits that involve Saturn, can be about restrictions, structure, responsibilities, can be about laborious work and efforts. Now, when you have transit Saturn conjoin your own natal Saturn, of course, this is the most intense part of the Saturn return. This is something where you might be having restrictions or even giving structure, discipline, responsibility, laborious work and efforts. It could be in one's career. Keep in mind, the fact that it's the most intense part of one's Saturn return, it could be a very strong period of maturation and evolution as a person. Now, in some cases, when you have this transit, of course, it can be out of sign, and then it might, at that time, it's not going to coincide with the actual Saturn return. But in most cases, it will be in the transit Saturn when it conjoins the natal Saturn will be in the sign Saturn, your natal Saturn is in, so it will coincide with the Saturn return in most instances. But anyway, you might be dealing with greater restrictions and limitations with the father, older people, which could include grandparents, but it could also give structure and discipline in matters with these people. Now, this could be a time too where you're talking about perhaps being responsible to your fears at this time, doing perhaps trying to work hard through them. Remember, Saturn is connected with laborious efforts. It could be a time too where you're trying perhaps to gain a lot more discipline at this point in time. A father or older person, Saturn person in general, might be factoring more prominently in this at this time in your life. And it's also a time too where you can be really trying to take responsibility perhaps for a limiting situation or circumstance in your life. And this is a time too, I have Saturn in Taurus in my chart in the 12th house of limitations, and during a large part of my life I have had monetary restrictions. In fact, it's in the 12th house. Maybe it's connected with self-sabotage to some degree. But near the time when I was having it, if I remember right, I was getting some support, from somebody monetarily to help me out in addition to whatever I was earning. And that support basically had pretty much, dissipated for the most part. I was told that I wasn't going to be getting it anymore. Found it interesting being at or near the Saturn return when this happened. And again, I have Saturn in Taurus, the sign connected with things of a monetary nature, and I have it in the 12th house of restrictions and limitations. It was an older person that was helping me out, so I found it very interesting to have, you're talking about that transit of Saturn, 12th house, conjoining my natal Saturn. So, and this is where, maybe that was an indicator too, the fact that transit Saturn was in my 12th house, that older person was going to be leaving out of my life to some degree as far as a monetary level goes. And this is a time, again, where it could be connected very strong maturation and discipline and responsibility, evolution as a person. You may be going through a career change. Remember that Saturn is a planet of limitations, and it's also the career. So when you have this transit, the limitation, it could manifest in limitations of a current career, which could mean you may be in the process of transitioning over to another one. Now, another thing too is that this could also be about too where Saturn is about chronic debilitations, and it could be a time where you're more responsible for them at this time, where something you procrastinated on, As far as anything, chronic illness, this is the time where you may actually do something about that, because remember, Saturn is also about hard, laborious working efforts. Saturn, anatomically speaking, is connected with the knees, the bones, the joints, the hamstrings, and the skin. So it can be a time where there may be more difficulties in those areas, or there might be more difficulty with a chronic debilitation that's associated with the sign that your Saturn is in. If it's something in Taurus, for example, it could be something with the thyroid, the neck, throat area. Might be chronic pain in that part of your body. The thing too is this could also be a very introspective period for you at this time, where you may be really doing a lot of evaluating and reassessing where you are in terms of your vocation, your career, your stature in life. And it's also about really, I mean, could be a very intensified period for a lot of work and laborious efforts at this point in time for you as well. Now, another way this could manifest, this could be about a father or an older person, which can include a grandparent, might be more prominent in your laborious efforts. It could be your career at this time, or maybe even playing a role, maybe feeling somewhat depressive or despondent. But it could be, let's say, for example, if this falls in Aquarius in the 12th house in your natal chart, well, this could be perhaps really, really altruistically, which is Aquarius, helping those less fortunate, which is the 12th house, and with a lot of hard work at this time. And then you might have like a Saturn-related person maybe helping you in this matter, or playing some kind of role in this one way or another. So could also be too where at this time you may be more there might be greater responsibility for debilitated older persons, such as a grandparent or a father. Let's say if this is in Gemini in your 4th house as an example, it could be a sickly or debilitated, which is Saturn, family member, which is the 4th, and it may be something Gemini related, such as carpal tunnel, something with breathing, a certain problem with the lungs, or an arm issue, hand issue perhaps. And the thing about this too is that this could be a period for you, again, going back to this, the evolution and being a very strong period of maturation for one. And the thing, what's interesting is when you have the Saturn return, first Saturn return astrology, you'll be around 29 years old, and a lot of times that could be a time where somebody might marry, and they change their status as far as their marital status. What's interesting is that Saturn Capricorn energy can be connected with status, 10th house in general, and it could also be a time too where, I mean, you could be, it might be about, I mean, Saturn could be about karma as well. So this could be about maybe some responsibility or karma for expressing perhaps negative energy associated with the Saturn position. Now, say if this is an Aquarius as an example, it could be for some idiosyncratic or bizarre rebellious behavior. Not saying you might have, someone was climbing on the walls, pretending to be Spider-Man with suction cups on his hands, but it could be something where something adverse may have happened, and it could be a time where you might be paying. It could be like a karmic debt. If this is in Taurus, it could be something of a monetary nature. Maybe it was something with shoplifting, or Gemini could be plagiarism or theft on some level. And especially say if it falls in the 8th or the 12th house in your natal chart, because the 8th house is connected with crime, and the 12th house is associated with imprisonment and incarceration. Could also be where chronic debilitations, if you do have any, may cause more worry and fear and apprehension, especially if you have this, say, in the 1st or the 6th house in your natal chart. The 1st house, of course, can be associated with the physical body, and the 6th house can be connected with physical health related matters, debilitation. So anyway, Now, it could be a time too where there might be more difficulty again, something Saturn related with the teeth, the bones, the skin, the joints, hamstring, the knees. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, again, could be a very critical period or a turning point in your life, and going back to the evolution as a person, the maturation, the time to take greater responsibility. If you're having this in the the second during the second Saturn return, which may be around age 58, it could be a time where even though you obviously when you're age close to 60, most people have matured very strongly by that point in time, but it could be taking on another responsibility where maybe you become a grandparent. At this time there could be a late in life career change or a transition. And of course when you have this this conjunction happening, it is again the most intense, it could be the most intense part of that period. Um, so those are some things to look at as far as this transit goes. But anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.